So the question often is, once we secede or we become independent, what happens to a couple of things? Number one, what happens to the debt? Now, there's no international law that says the seceding country has to adopt any portion of the host country or the parent country's national debt. There's no law. But there is what can be called the gentleman's agreement. When Belgium seceded from Holland, it was decided that Belgium would accept the portion of the national debt in relation to what their population is, to the host country's population. So let's say the Western Cape has got 10%, argument's sake, of the population of South Africa. South Africa's debt at the moment is very fast running to 5 trillion rand. COVID has had a massive impact. It's going to be more than 5 trillion soon. So let's look at the figure of 5 trillion. According to what's called a per capita approach, we must then adopt 10% of the 5 trillion, which is 500 billion. Just recapping what I said earlier, our contribution to the GDP is 632 billion. So if I have to adopt a debt of 500 billion, it becomes a manageable debt. Now, again, when a country secedes, all assets within that country which were deemed state assets, which would be your airports, your military bases, your harbors, all such asset reverts to being the property of the new state or the seceding state. However, because of per capita, it's internationally deemed as a fair deal, where the seceding country now says we'll adopt part of the national debt and make the transition easier. Although when the Western Cape secede, the economists will sit down and look at things like the decommissioning of Coburg, which will conservatively cost about $500 million, which no provision was made by Eskom to do so. We will take into account the debt of COVID and lockdown, which were not justified. There were court rulings that the whole COVID lockdown thing was unconstitutional. So certain factors of taking over this 10% of the national debt will be looked at. However, in the same process, the new country will take over things like state pensions. People that's got a government position, which normally ask us what is going to happen to my job, you will simply become part of the new government structure of the new sovereign state. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to lose your pensions. In fact, pensions in the new sovereign state will be much safer than what they are now, because pensions at the moment is squarely in the sights of the national government. One of the policies or future tax models that CapeXit proposes is the TEAL system, which is the Total Economic Activity Levy system. It's very easy to understand. TEAL is based on the fact that any money moving into any bank account, be it a private bank account or a corporate bank account, is taxed at a rate of 0.5%. Any funds leaving such a bank account is taxed at 0.5%. So the total taxation on, let's say, 100 Rand going in and going out of a bank account is 1%. So compare that to what we're currently paying in terms of personal tax, in terms of company tax, which is probably around about 43% or 45%. The tax on your diesel, tax on your petrol, the value-added tax you're paying, which is 15%, which is very soon going to get into the sights of the fiscal of South Africa being increased because they need to generate funds. The moment you institute TEAL, you can actually do away with all those taxes. Now, like secession, TEAL is not something new. You have countries like Singapore, you have countries like even in Monaco, where there is virtually no tax, which is seen, we often refer to those as free trade zones. A free trade zone simply means a very tax-friendly environment. The moment you institute TEAL, the entire new country becomes a tax-free environment or tax-friendly environment. Now just imagine what that will do to investments coming into the new country. So TEAL has actually been written in 1985. It's been proposed to the current national government. It's obviously not been accepted for very clear reasons, and we will definitely at the moment put TEAL on the table as being one of the tax instruments moving forward. The interesting fact about TEAL is when you institute TEAL, you will increase your tax net 27-fold. So we take that back to the fact that our entire contribution to the GDP will stay within the new country. We now have a tax system which increases the tax net 27-fold and remove all the other forms of taxation. So any corporate structure within the Western Cape will find themselves with a lot more ready cash in hand, which again will translate into creating more jobs, getting money invested into education, into training. So all of these factors points to a very healthy growth in the economy, which will then be a first world standard economy. When you look at the system of Sassa grants, there's one thing that is at the moment becoming a problem, and that is the fact that South Africa has become a country of grants. It's become a welfare state. Number one, it's not going to be able to maintain that status quo. Eventually, the country will simply run out of money. So like with the pensions, you have no guarantee that you will be getting your grant for X number of years to come. However, in taking over methodology of state assets and government positions being secure in a new government, the system of Sassa grants will be taken over. However, the system will be reviewed. It is totally impossible to pay out grants to 13-year-old children just to have children. It cannot, it's not viable. It's not sustainable. It can never happen. We will go back to the system where the grants get paid out to your elderly people, your disabled people, people that's looking after people. You have communities where you have a person looking after 10 or 14 people on their Sassa grant. Now, recognition must be given to people like that, because that's really the people that needs to be supported financially in terms of reaching out to the community. Apart from the fact that the dynamics of the community will change once you have a better economy. The people dependent on grants will be reduced, because again, there's an alternative. People that at the moment who are the victims of black economic empowerment is sitting at home, and you have a segment of the population between 60 and 70 and 75 who can be massively productive, but they sit at home because they've been sidelined. Now plug those people back into the economy, and immediately the demand on a grant system will be reduced. But anybody that's on a grant currently will keep on receiving a grant.
Be careful. They'll say you're a dreamer.
Yes, but I'm not the only one.
We need your support to make this a reality for everyone. So register your support for Western Cape independence at www.capeexit.org.